Hey there, Dodger Game viewers. It is, what is it, the 22nd of June, so we're right into the summer solstice, and we're getting into a page on my website, Mormon Truth Videos Gospel Topics Hub. It's at .weebly.com, by the way. It's called Cult Mind Control in the Kingdoms of Satan, Yahweh, and Mormonism. So the subject of mind control used within Mormonism, within the Watchtower Bible and Tract Society for the Jehovah's Witnesses, and within Scientology has been discussed a fair amount. People discussing, the bite model and so forth, behavioral control, information control, emotional control, thought control, that sort of a thing. Steve Hassan's material and book and Luna Lindsay have made some nice contributions, and we've seen Jonathan Streeter discuss that kind of stuff. And today I'm going to address a comment with regard to a much deeper level of mind control practice. Actually, mind control isn't so much what's being mentioned in the comment, but it ties in with the satanic ritual abuse that one of our viewers has commented on being so rampant in Utah. And so I'm gonna go ahead and address this, and then we're going to get into some additions I've made to this particular web page, which go into trauma-based mind control and how that actually links up with the LDS Church and the Catholic Church, and I'm sure with all the other organizations that are brought together by those who actually do lead them, who actually have their own separate religion, and we find associated with Freemasons, Jesuits, and other occultists. So stay tuned. I'm going to introduce some videos, or you can just go look at this page and see the new ones here and see what I wrote, but I think I'll have some things that are worthwhile to say. So let's take a look and see what Mr. Jim Caponzi had to say in introducing this subject. Okay? Jim's kind of a Catholic guy who's pretty vocal on the internet. I might have even picked a fight with him on somebody else's page once, but that's okay. We're about freedom of expression here on the Dodger Game channel, and just ask that people try to be reasonably polite with each other, try to be honest, and whether you agree with the things I have to say or with each other, we're not into thought control here. So here we go. So it all started off here with a little banter. Starting off, and we're going to get into it here where Jim Caponzi is going to talk right here. He's talking to Davy Jones, who I believe is ex-Mormon and kind of associated with some Christian beliefs, and makes some pretty good comments in my opinion. We may not agree on all things, but he seems to be a man of integrity, in my opinion. Davy Jones says, Jim, I can see your point, but the Mormons are a group of terrorists on their own, especially the ones from out there in Utah, the way they try to run Utah like a third world country. They get prosecuted and arrested by DAs like one of my relatives that is in Utah. And the reason for the Mormons' arrests is because a few of them make terrorist threats to non-Mormon families if they oppose Mormonism. Make sick threats like they will burn a family's house down, not caring if there are children or animals in the house. The Mormons are barbaric-minded, not to mention, I want to show you this conversation from Richard Holmes. Okay, I'm not going to worry about the Richard Holmes thing, because that's just not part of what this is about, really. That's their personal beef. So I responded there. I kind of jumped in. I said, Jim, I really wish you would consider the fact that many Mormons do not fit the definitions of malicious characterization with which you tend to stereotype all of them into. maybe I should say all of us. I'm still a member of the church, not believing in the in the leaders being honest, but anyway, I have known and still know many wonderful active members of the church whom I view as victims of sophisticated mind control practices, some being very bright, caring, and devoted, family-oriented people. Mind control affects intelligent people, bright minds as well. So, yeah, because sometimes people say, how come you Mormons be so stupid to believe all this stuff when there's so much information showing the contradictions in the scripture, the changing doctrines, the dishonesty of the brethren. But there are reasons that people don't notice, or that they put things on their shelf. I had to put some things on the shelf for a long time until somehow the shelf broke and I had to face the facts that I was being lied to. So Jim says, to me, apparently, you need to realize the fact that one of my relatives is a district attorney out there in Utah, and the fact that him and his associates, what would my mother say, Jim? Should that be he and his associates? Of course, I could be wrong. Prosecutes and arrests Mormons for raping kids, making terrorist threats to non-Mormon families, for fraud, for meth selling. I can go on and on. There's a huge list. The Mormons are what they are, and their true colors come out when they think no one is looking. I, for one, will never subject my children to Mormons, says Jim. Okay, so I could have just come off and said, well, Jim, that would be like a small portion of the population, like it is anywhere. Maybe you've got 1% of the people that are that criminal. However, it may be a little greater percent of the population. However, it certainly isn't everyone, and I stand by what I said, that there are just a lot of really caring, good, family-oriented people in the church. That being said, Jim's got a point here. And I believe that it is not just random screwed up people that are doing random things without any direction in society. Because I'm aware that things are much, much different within the LDS Church and within multiple other churches, where what's the best word to use here? An inner circle, a cadre, an inner circle of people are involved that have a secret religion. And I've been approached by people who have also discussed things with me and then just erased their tracks on the internet, who know that I'm aware of things that the Freemasons and various occultists are doing with the various churches. When we see church leadership, whether it's evangelical through guys like Billy Graham, Pat Robertson, Robert Schuller, Oral Roberts, Joel Osteen, all these guys, when you start looking, Ken Copeland, you start looking, see who's a Freemason. It's a little beyond coincidence. And when you realize what occurs in the upper levels of Freemasonry, the sickening satanic rites that are practiced by certain high-ranking members in the occult, not just within Freemasonry, but it seems to be a gathering ground for people in various occult societies. Whether you're talking about people in the Golden Dawn or other of these occult organizations, Mothers of Darkness. All sorts of things, all sorts of men and women are involved in satanic ritual abuse because they are making sacrifices and practicing satanic rites. And actually, there are people, not just the apostles, But people in certain bloodlines in the church that are at various levels of leadership, whose families are generational Satanists. And that's why we have things come up, like the internal memo from, presiding bishopric counselor Glenn L. Pace. Is it L. Pace? Glenn Pace, at any rate, a few years ago, where he had interviewed multiple people and found that actually many priesthood leaders were involved. In fact, a guy who was a ward mission leader for my son apparently, discovered that his child had been sexually abused by priesthood leaders at a Boy Scout camp. There is all sorts of stuff that just gets covered up, and these pedophilia rings are not limited to the LDS church, because the occultists that are doing this sort of thing have their own web that is independent of the LDS church or the Watchtower or SDA or Scientology or the Catholic Church. Sorry, Jim. Yeah, Catholic Church too. Your filthy Jesuits are not a bunch of innocent guys. These people run religion. They run government, they run banking, they run the pharmaceutical industry and the media. We find occultists at the head of these corporations because the shares held by the preferred shareholders and the number of votes they get are held by those who block vote in these privately held organizations, these privately held companies such as cities, states, counties, pension funds, and countries. Yeah. It's more than coincidence why we have a bunch of, Freemason presidents and skull and bones guys, generational with the Bush family, for instance, involved in CIA leadership, Council on Foreign Relations, Presidency of the United States, banking, assisting the Nazis like Prescott Bush. So anyway, the webpage on cult mind control at first focuses on these methodologies used in religion to keep people from realizing who's leading them, and that they're not in the one true church, whether it's the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints or the Jehovah's Witnesses or Scientology or the Seventh-day Adventists or the Holy Roman Catholic Church, run by the Jesuits secretly. It goes much deeper than the exercise of manipulating people through religion to be loyal to their government leaders, to do whatever they say, and to willingly participate in these wars of mass destruction and murder, like Gordon B. Hinckley advocated, as our duty to follow Dick Cheney and George Bush into Iraq. Hello, Satan. Anybody remember Michael Balaam and the Endowment? Yeah, so cult mind control goes much deeper than gaining the allegiance of people and being successful as Amalekites upon the towers to get us to blindly follow our leaders. And so here we go. It says, as I added to the page, the next videos were not produced by me, and they involved a much deeper level of abuse, including methods such as trauma-based mind control, which is a deep state issue and so radical a concept that many viewers may not be aware of such things and tend to initially find unbelievable. Those of you who have taken the time to investigate subjects such as CIA-sponsored mind control projects like MK Ultra and other nefarious projects like Monarch, Mockingbird or Paperclip with the Nazi participants, or even Iran-Contra drugs for weapons and CIA regime manipulation and illicit drug trafficking, or the human trafficking including pedophilia rings and satanic ritual abuse, which manages to surface despite massive cover-up and show involvement of LDS and Catholic priesthood participation, such as LDS presiding bishopric counselor Glenn Pace brought to light in his leaked internal memo, or the resignation of the Pope, Ratzinger, with his known Nazi ties. These hard-to-believe practices for the masses are witnessed to by victims such as Catholic Kathy O'Brien or LDS Christy Allen, as MK Ultra survivors who have been sold into such programs as children and been abused by politicians such as Gerald Ford, the Bushes and Clintons, Senator Robert Byrd, etc., and subjected to trauma-based mind control in the George Romney mansion in Michigan. Yeah, you know, Mitt's daddy. Listen and reserve judgment until you investigate what these privately held corporations whose leaders are occultists do with your tax and tithing dollars. So here, got a video here. Christy Allen, she lived in the Santa Maria stake of Zion there, northern Santa Barbara County, just above Vandenberg Air Force Base, and was sold into a mind control program there. Good Mormon girl whose entire family was subjected to tremendous torture there. Worth listening to. Worth listening to. You can believe it or not believe it, but the more you know about how this works, the more credibility you will find that these girls have. You know, we're typically just told, oh, they're crazy, they're nuts, don't listen to them. Don't listen to people that say that the prophet isn't guided by the Lord. Don't listen, you know, to the anti-Mormons. When you read the facts, you see that these guys do nothing but lie to you on LDS.org. Mind control, out of control, MK Ultra, Kathy O'Brien, part 1. It's Kathy O'Brien again. Our media is controlled by criminals. Okay, so there's a lot of information in these videos. These girls have gone through hell, and you can find it right here on Mormon Truth Videos Gospel Topics Hub. I'm just going to put more and more things in here that pertain to the subject, and of course, you know, you pop on that, and it's going to, you know, do their YouTube thing, so they're getting total credit for the time and so forth. You know, it's you know, going right to their YouTube stuff. But we've got things organized here pertaining to the subject of mind control, and yeah, our church leaders are involved in mind control, and we are guided by Satanists at the top, parading as holy apostles of the imaginary Jesus Christ. Dodger game out. Enjoy.